Well, I'm very lucky this morning to be joined by Gary Barwell, the head groundsman at Edgbaston Cricket Club. And I think the last time we spoke, Gary, was just over a year ago. We were sitting in the commentary booth at Edgbaston, looking out at the wonderful pitches you'd prepared, looking forward to what was going to be a wonderful summer of cricket. How times have changed. Huh? It was a wonderful summer of cricket, but there couldn't be a bigger change from then, looking forward to what you had to look forward to now. So what's life been like over the last few months for you and the guys?
Yeah, last year was an amazing summer. England winning the World Cup. I think we spoke briefly just before that, like you just said. And then we had the Ashes. It was a very busy summer, up and down the country. Again, high percentage of good pitches around the country for the guys. But no, and then obviously we have a very wet winter. We're all sort of worrying, we're going to get out there early, and then all of a sudden, like a lot of us, we start hearing the news that isn't good, and then it gradually gets worse. And then, decisions are made, and there's a lot of people up and down the land making decisions that are, a lot more complex than mine, and we all try and do our bit in really trying situations, and the key workers, the NHS staff and teachers and all the people, shop workers and everybody that's kept the country going in the last few weeks. You sort of try and help them by doing what you can. We're a team here at Edgbaston of 9 of us on the ground staff. We had a very early meeting. I mean, Warwickshire have been absolutely outstanding. They've kept us informed every sort of step of the way. Everything's safety, everything they can do for their staff, they have done. And basically we about just as the outbreak really started to take effect and places were being sort of shut down in effect, the club took the decision that the ground was going to be shut down like a lot of sporting venues, which meant my team of 9 basically went down to a team of 2. One was at our satellite ground at Portland Road, and I was here looking after 2 sites, and it was purely on a situation of that was the best solution for the club and the safety of the staff. Since then, we crack on, and like a lot of groundsmen up and down the groundswomen up and down the country, we've all been doing our bit. I was on my own here for 5 weeks, which was very different. It took me back a long time ago to when I used to work at a club cricket ground for Leicestershire at Hinckley, which, in a strange way, you sort of fall back in love with what you do. You're back working, just doing the things you do. And it was quite a bit of a strange distraction, really, in a very serious situation for the country. So I carried on going. Then after about 5 weeks, it sort of became a bit evident that it was quite hard work to sort of do it on my own. Mentioned to the club that I'd quite like my deputy to come back, just obviously in case I got ill, and everything was growing quicker, to be quite honest with you. That was about 2-3 weeks ago, something like that. Since then, obviously, the news that the bowlers have come back in to train, which has been, I didn't think I'd ever really hear myself saying it was amazing. It was great news to hear that we've got a couple of bowlers coming in, because actually it's why we do our job. We do our job to get professional sport on, and hopefully, in your own small way, you're trying to get back to a little bit of normality. So yeah, we're getting there now. There's only me and my deputy here. It's a very different work environment. Lunch times are separate. We're never really together. We chat from distance. All the social distancing and all the measures we can take are in place. And yeah, it's a different world and a different time, but you sort of adapt to the surroundings that you're given, don't you?
Yeah, but you mentioned it really with the bowlers coming back, but now the difficult bit's happening, the easing out of full lockdown. So now you've got to start thinking about active cricket, I would imagine. I don't know if you've begun any indications of when that's going to be. And then I would imagine, and you can probably tell me I'm wrong, you've got to think about 4-day pitches, 1-day pitches, 2020 pitches, and 100 cricket. I mean, I don't know what's still on the planning board. 100, what do you call it? The 100?
Yeah, the hundred's actually been cancelled this year now. That's going to be relaunched next year. I think there's a number of factors, to be quite honest. I think, in a strange way, locking down the country was the easier part. In a very bizarre way, I think opening it up again is a difficult scenario. I think when things become safe are divided opinion. I've got children. Whether I send them back to school or not, if the school's open, is again, the amount of things that we have to put in place when we have the bowlers in, which is right, to make sure they're safe, is like I say again, divides opinion across the country, and it's for different people to discuss. But no, I mean, I think the biggest problem we've got is that it's gauging when the time is right. I think why people are still ill. I think ECB have been very good at gauging the right time, taking the time, looking at the schedules, being very, they've been very proactive in a quite difficult situation. And I believe actually, and credit where it's due, it's been handled very well fixture wise. It was originally, I think, might have been the 1st of June when it was originally started. And then they realised quite soon that wasn't realistic, and then that got pushed back another month. So it wasn't like bombarding you with silly data. It was actually saying, look, this is what we hope to do. We haven't got any fixtures that I've not personally seen any fixtures that there's rumours and there's talk and there's like anything in the media. And personally, I do hope we see a little bit of something. I don't know what that will look like. But I think it's like a bit of everything, isn't it? If you have a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, it gives everybody a little bit of hope and a bit of that we're coming out of such an awful situation.
Mm-hmm. It must have been a bit like being the pub with no beer, Edgbaston with no cricket. Do you feel a bit like a frustrated landlord?
I don't know. My beer intake probably gone up over this pandemic, to be honest. No, I mean, it's a very strange situation. I can sort of see where you go. I think because you are, and it's actually, strange, obviously on social media, you see all the grounds around the country, groundsmen are working away, sort of behind closed doors, just basically like a lot of voluntary groundsmen trying to just keep ticking over. And actually, what you found is people are just concentrating, we've had no covers down, obviously other than for when the bowlers are coming back in recently. We've had no matches to prepare for. So what you're doing is you're, for want of better, tending the grass. You've got no players on it. So actually, it's probably this time of year, it's the best the square's ever looked. The only downside to that is I've found here at Edgbaston, and probably a lot of people around the country, I've got potentially a couple of other jobs as well. I took on obviously our satellite ground to help whilst I was on my own, and now we are doing jobs that, like, we've just been over the nets this morning, and we've groomed out and verti-cut the nets. I've cut the square. My deputy's cut the outfield, and that's all been done. It's been fertilised this morning and the water's on. They're jobs that you would steadily do through a week, possibly a little better. Whereas you're very much time oriented now. So straight away, I've got to come out now, and I'm out into the middle now, and the square gets the majority of my time, because in theory, at some point, fingers crossed, we may be using it again. And I can't just sort of go, oh, it's dried out. What do I do? So again, we're lucky we've got pop-up sprinklers that I can computerly, I can go to my cloud and open up and switch on. So that things like that help here massively. Some grounds aren't as lucky as that. Like I said, groundsmen up and down the country, working very hard.
Have you been in touch with other groundsmen around the country to share frustrations, to share tips and ideas as to what you could be doing at this time?
Yeah, and that's been actually a strange thing. We spoke briefly at the start, didn't we? If you'd asked me what Zoom was before, I'd probably say it was a lollipop or something like that kids have. But no, it's one of the strange things that's come out of it. Look, I mean, these kind of conference calls and things have been going on for a long time, but Zoom's very easy. We once a week have a drop in. One of the guys mentioned it would be a good idea that we did that. And it is basically a drop-in. Every Wednesday, we roughly all, I set it up. The guys then come involved, and it was one of the guys' idea that we just do it if you fancy coming in for half an hour for a chat. And basically we do this thing round the windows, and all of us just say, what they've been up to, what they're doing. And it's people in the same boat that, it's just a chat. But on the phone, we've constantly stayed in touch, because actually a lot of things, mental health awareness and things at this time. And actually, do you know what? Sometimes it's all about just having a chat. It's about talking rubbish, and putting the world to rights, and just generally a bit of information. Or, I think I had a chat with Neil. I noticed he put some sprinklers on his outfield, that sort of, and then I just got in touch with him the other day and said, I noticed them on social media. They look quite smart. That might do our outfield on our practice ground, because we haven't got to pop up sprinklers. And you sort of go with conversations like that. This morning there's been a picture of historic pictures at Lord's, and I've sent one to Carl just to say, this is 1972, just stuff like that, just to keep everything ticking by.
It really is strange times, and we will get through them, and we'll look back to this period, 2020, and hopefully what does come out of it and sustains will be for the better. We'll have a better feeling for what we believe in, what we feel is important, maybe more so than was before. So hopefully, and just what I say, Carl, Gary, thanks very much for giving me a little bit of time this morning. It is weird. I hope I'll get a chance to see you perhaps sitting in one of your seats at Edgbaston before too very long, when there's cricket to watch. But again, thanks very much for giving us a little bit of your time.
No problem at all.